Hello and welcome, Bitmonger family. Today we are going to be looking at education costs. And the reason why I'm looking at this is because a lot of you guys get married to young women and they want to have babies. And you're going to have to educate those kids. And you, I would hope, would want your kids to have the best education possible. Because let's face it, if you're not educated, your life is probably going to be, not the best. There's a high correlation between a good education and success in life, and that cannot be dismissed. So, what I'm looking at today, and I was an educator myself, I have a master's degree, and I worked at, a bunch of international schools around Southeast Asia, having been in Southeast Asia now for nearly 35 years, okay? And there's two things that you should be looking for when you're looking at sending your kid to a school, and that is accreditation. Now, there's two main sources, well, three. There's three sources of accreditation. One here is WASC, W-S-A-C, and that stands for the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. And this is based out of the United States and is recognized, in the U.S. and other Western countries. So this is a good one. Yeah. Another one is CIS. And this is the Council of International Schools, and it's globally recognized as well. And another one, I didn't pull it up here, is the IB. But generally speaking, these are the main two. And these schools will generally, the trend is they will have IB certification, which is the International Baccalaureate, which is a rigorous study and something that you guys probably want to consider having your kids do if they're average, if they're an average student or better. Okay, if they're struggling, you may just want to go with the normal high school certificate, which is fine as well, because this way, by doing so, if you send your kids to school back in a Western country, they will be able to get in easily without having to do all this other type of paperwork and this type of stuff. Now, this is a big deal because these schools, honestly, are not cheap. They're not cheap at all. I mean, the last school that I was working for, the average tuition per year was around $25,000 a year per student. And that doesn't include all the registration fees and, other hidden fees that hit you when you sign up to these schools. So I used Grok and I asked the question, what's the average cost of an international school with a Western accreditation in Southeast Asia? And this is what I got. So the cheapest country, the most affordable destination would be in Malaysia. Cities like Ipoh, Perak had a median annual fees of $2,648 US, while Kuala Lumpur and Johor Bahru range from around $6,000 to $7,000. Okay. Thailand was relatively affordable, with cities like Phuket, Chiang Mai, and Bangkok having median fees of under $15,000. Now, after I invested wisely and made a ton of money, I retired. I didn't want to continue the rat race. I enjoyed teaching, but I hated dealing with all the meetings and the bullshit with administration. So I got out of it, retired to my beach house, but I continued. I have a son, and I sent him to an international school in Bangkok. And that cost me about 15 grand a year. Okay. Ultimately, it ended up costing me, because I did it for about 3.5 years while I wasn't working. So it ended up costing me, roughly $50K after everything. So it is not a small amount of money, guys. But so we have 15K here. It says the median's between 10 and 12K. I question that. I think it probably might be a little bit higher than that. Like I said, I sent my son to a school in Bangkok, and it wasn't the top tier school by any means, but it was accredited, and he will be going on to university next year in the States, and he's not going to have, they're going to accept his high school diploma. Okay. The next one is, here we have Philippines. Manila's international schools, many accredited by WASC or CIS, have median fees around $10,000 to $15,000, though specific fee data is less publicly available. Then we got Indonesia. This is a newer inclusion in cost analysis. The reason why they're listing this one is because there's quite a large foreign population there. And it says 6 to 8K. Jakarta's fees are higher, closer to 15K. Singapore is off the chart, 25,000 to 32,500. Vietnam, surprisingly, is also quite high, with median fees between 10 and 15K for WASC or CIS accredited schools. And Phnom Penh is the cheapest, with fees between $3,000 to $5,000. So there you guys have it. If you're thinking about, having kids with, one of these ladies that you ended up, marrying or being with, you really should be considering this and budgeting for this if you want your kids to have an advantage in life. Because honestly, let's face it, guys, you and I both know that when you talk to most of these local people that went just to the regular schools, they don't know shit. They have no idea about, history. They have no idea about, they don't push critical thinking, guys. They don't. And that is what sets you apart from being a dumb fuck, is being able to think critically. All of these schools, they use rote learning. It's just memorization, okay? If you didn't know what rote learning means, it just means memorizing, dates or facts or something, but they don't think outside the box. They don't apply it to the significance or what it means. And this is why when you have conversations with most of these native people that went to just a plain local school, conversations are dull because they're I don't want to say they're not intellectuals, but they didn't have the background to think critically, and that wasn't pushed on them when they went through school. I had an argument. Well, I wouldn't say an argument, but I had a person recently that I was speaking with, and I had told them that in the past I was a history teacher, social studies, and he scoffed at it. And this is a Thai guy, and I really like the guy, but I asked him, I'm like, well, he's like, what's the point of learning that stuff? And if you don't know your history, how can you understand the world today? Okay? If you don't understand that, you're lost. Okay? That's a simple fact. Now, you're going to find that a lot of these schools, the Philippines, Thailand, all of these countries in Southeast Asia, except for, I would say, Singapore, they don't teach. They don't teach it well, and your kids are going to come out of high school not knowing fuck all. Okay, all right. So this is important for you to be considering. And if you don't consider it, well, then you're going to have to supplement their studies with you giving them lessons. And unfortunately, from what I can see, most of the guys that move to the Philippines or to Southeast Asia in general, they're not very well educated either. They don't know shit, So, are they going to be able to homeschool their kids or supplement what they're learning when they send them to these shit schools where they don't know fuck all. Yeah, I I can tell you it's not looking pretty if so. Okay, so, you know, do the right thing, you know, save the money. I would plan on, you know, sending your kids to these schools if you really want them to do well in life, unless you're financially set and can support them, which most guys aren't. That's why they've moved to places like the Philippines, because they're, you know, they're tight, they're on a shoestring. So do the right thing, guys, and just try to do your best if you can't afford to send them to a good school. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Oh, wait a second, I'm not going to leave it there. Let me look at a couple things. So here's a chart. We can see this is a breakdown of schools and costs. We can see China is by far the most expensive. Singapore's there. Seoul is next. Hanoi, surprisingly, is the 7th, and this is coming from, what's this website? International School Database, okay? And this gives us the breakdown. So we got Tokyo, Taipei, Yangon. I worked in Yangon for quite a while at a good international school there. They charged the students massive. It was just crazy. But that's how I got paid a really good salary as well. Kyoto, Osaka, Pattaya. Well, I would not live in Pattaya at all. I think it's a horrible place. It's a great place to go for a short holiday or a stag party and party down. But, you know, living there with your kids, that to me, you know, most of the people, let's face it, it's a sex tourism spot. Most of the guys that go there, that choose to live there, are, you know, shady characters, you know. There are some great guys that live there, but let's face it, most of them are scumbags, losers. Then we got Chiang Mai, Phuket, Manila is down here on 18th, Johor Bahru, Bali, Penang, Kuala Lumpur, Phnom Penh, and then this Ipoh Perak in Malaysia. Okay, so I did a quick search. One great school in Manila is the International School of Manila, and you guys are going to be shocked. Look at this, man. The International School of Manila has varying fees, and just so you know, the fees go up as they go up in grades. So by the time they're, you know, a sophomore up in high school, they are maxing out, and it's costing you more. And this is just going to go up in time, guys. So look at this. Grades 9 to 10, annual fee is $17,000 US, man. Damn. Preschool, $30K annual fee. Application fee, $600 per child. I guess the preschool might be more expensive because there's going to be more demand on, you know, just having to, you know, change diapers and all that type of stuff that for the little kids. But yeah, man. Another school is Brent International School. This is a fairly good school in as well in the Philippines, and we can see here too, it's not cheap. It ranges between 442,000 pesos up to 1,000,000 pesos per year. All right, guys, and they got campuses in Baguio and Subic, and I'm pretty sure they also have a campus in Manila. Yeah, they do. It has campuses in Manila, Baguio, and Subic, okay? They do offer the IDB diploma program, and they do have accreditation. Here's a list of international schools in the Philippines that you guys can check out. There's quite a few, okay? But these are schools that are accredited, that you can feel comfortable knowing that if you send your kid to one of these schools, they are going to have some sort of framework in which they're teaching them, and they're most likely going to be teaching them critical thinking rather than rote learning. Here's a list of schools in in Thailand, throughout Thailand, and again, similar thing. They're accredited. You can rest at ease knowing that these schools do have some sort of framework and are teaching your kids critical thinking rather than just rote learning. Alright guys, if that video kind of freaked you out, about the cost of educating your kids and you're living here in Southeast Asia, I strongly recommend that you look at my other videos about investing and how to get ahead of the game, because if not, things are going to be difficult. It's really important to invest. You want to make the bank, you want to live the baller lifestyle and be financially independent, you need to be taking a good strong look at investing. All right, I'll leave it there. Wish you all a wonderful day and monger on.